It's time to apply something to Minecraft that I learned at work. If you aren't aware, a church likes to cast vision to the congregation. It's probably not too different from what a CEO may do for their company. A few years ago, we created a vision for the next 5 years, and we asked ourselves, what kind of church do we want to be in 5 years? And we answered the question and then set up a plan to reevaluate that vision every year. How are we doing? Do we need to tweak anything? Do we have realistic expectations? In the last episode, I got so excited to move on to what I thought was the next step. Because the last episode, listen, I really did have a bit of a revelation in the middle of recording that. I was so ready to move on to adding shape and basic designs to our newly created build palettes. However, as I took a step back and reevaluated the current state I was in and what I needed to do for the next episode, I realized if I moved forward with the plan I had set in place, I would be doing a disservice to other areas of the world that I hadn't considered yet. I need to not spend too much time progressing in one area that I forsake the needs of another area. Today's theme, Project Equity. So what exactly do I mean by Project Equity? Essentially what I'm getting at is, it could be a really bad thing, and I know this is just the way some people work, and that's fine if you are like this, but I'm not, and I think you'll be better served to not be this way. Don't go full force on one project. This goes back to what we talked about day one, the quote-unquote starter bases that are these immaculate, like 100-hour designs. Stop that. And the point here is, if you're wanting to build a world, now if you're just wanting to do one small project, what I mean by one small project is like, if you've just got one thing that you want to do, fine, go do that. But if you're doing what I'm doing, if you're wanting to craft an entire world and an entire area, don't get too far ahead with one idea and then you leave another idea in the dust, because then the other idea that you skipped might be impacted negatively by what you've already done, and vice versa. When you start doing something, like for instance, I'll stop talking in vague terms. Let's say you decide to go do paths later, but you've already got these completely finished builds in the way. Well, what if the best way for a path is where a build is? Well, now you've already completed a build. You've got this big, beautiful build, but you really need a path to go through it. So yes, let's do the color palettes. And that, honestly, that's the knowing where we want to put buildings at first is kind of integral to doing paths. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta know where I'm doing a path to. I could just start with paths, but then it'd be like, but then if you start with paths, you handicap your builds, because now you're basing your builds on where your paths are, and it may not be the best place for the path. You get what I'm saying? So you need to keep all of your projects at a similar doneness level, if that makes sense. I have done some tweaking, by the way. I added brick because I've got so much of that. I've got so much clay. Let's do some brick in there. I think that'll be a neat little texture to throw in there. I think it's going to be great. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to start working on some paths. I've already been working on a few. Let me do this because nighttime does make the map darker. I have cleared out trees, like going from this building to this building and this building up here, and also all the way through here. There's a path going to this, and then a path going down here. I have not gone out to this ledge right here. Now I've started working on a path. I decided, I'll talk about what this is here in a second, but there's a path that goes this way that's going to go all the way to the tower that's over here, right there. Is that what it is? No. Here? Somewhere. Wherever the tower is. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start clearing out and marking theoretical paths, because then the next step after that is a step that you arguably could skip if you want to. You could also kind of make this fit with your builds if you want to, or you could just not do it at all. We need some lore. We need the world to have life, and it makes the builds much better if they serve a purpose before we even begin building them, right? So through the pathing, we will discover where we want what sort of buildings. What sort of area would be good for a farm? What sort of area would be good for, oh, I don't know, a chicken factory? Because that sure is going to be one of those. Maybe that one. Maybe that one over there. So I'm about to start up a stream where we're going to clear out some paths, areas, and talk through that, and maybe talk through some lore stuff over on Twitch. And then I'll check back in with you after that. All right, one stream and one bout with COVID later, I am finally returning. For what seemed to you as a simple time lapse was for me a week of isolation, and it's good to be back. I literally just hit record for the first time since getting COVID. Everything's fine. I'm good. Carter's got it as well. He's finishing up his quarantine today and tomorrow. And so it wasn't too bad. Had fever for about 12-ish hours, maybe 18 hours. Aching and fatigue for 36 hours. Well, the fatigue really carried on. I still get spells where I feel like, I don't know, it just feels different, you know? It just feels different. Anyways, we're back. We're ready to record. So here's all we did on stream, and then I've done a little bit off camera as well. So here's our tower, right? We've got our path planned out for the tower. All of the paths are laid out with jungle planks, which is great because we can see them visually on the map, and it's really, really helpful. I tell you what, having a world map is incredibly useful for world planning and large area builds. So there's one path that goes that way, but look. What is this? What is it? I stumbled upon this little area down here. It's awfully unimmersive right now with that tree just kind of floating there. But we're gonna dress this up later and have ourselves a little underground path tunnel thing that comes up over here. This needs to connect somewhere else over here as well. So this is gonna go. You can choose to either go that way to reach something else, which we're going to talk about here in a second, or you use this to go up, up, up. Now this path, this took up the bulk of the stream, figuring out how we get from down there to up there, or more specifically, how the people of the world would. And I realized, you know what, it's just going to have to be a kind of long, wide path, almost like I don't want to call it a road, but it's got to be big. It's got to be substantial because this is the main one. I think we're going to have another one over here because there's a nice little slope down here, but I'm also thinking there's going to be a bridge connecting this to this. I thought that would be pretty cool. So now the thought is, let's talk lore. Let's talk lore because we've started the paths, but now we've got to know, okay, where are these paths going to? Because where they go to kind of depends on what they look like and how big they are. You know what I mean? And their kept upness, their niceness. And I think I've figured out I want farms down here because that just makes sense to me, right? You wouldn't do a farm, like maybe there's a certain crop that grows better at high elevations. I don't know, like let's say let's say for lore's sake, berries. Let's say berries grow better up at higher elevations. Well, maybe we have a couple of berry farms up there. But like wheat and potatoes and corn definitely belong down here. So I'm thinking what we do is we have this area all around the island. So from all the way back here, all the way around here be farmland. Now, problem with this obviously is that's a lot of trees. I'd considered turning on the fire tick, but I really want that wood. So I would rather get this episode out to you sooner and have this done for next time than have this entire episode span 2+ weeks of my life. So we're gonna end this episode here. Oh, I did start pathing down here because I was like, you know what? I need to finish this island as well because, oh, and I moved the cows, because I realized, oh yeah, I need to finish this island and dress it up like I would have back in the day, right? Like back in the day, this is the sort of path I would have done. Probably wouldn't have done a farm quite like this, but this is what new Kyle would. This is what Kyle, if he were starting Minecraft today, this is what he would do. I also thought it would be funny if the cows were the keeper of this teleporter. So, sorry, probably a short episode today, but we're getting back into recording. Been gone for a while. It's good to see you all again, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios. Goodbye. There.